energy shoots up through his body. He channels the power while standing firm, stating that his axe technique is becoming more refined and destructive. With golden eyes glowing, he senses his body becoming stronger, remarking that his physical toughness has increased. He reflects that although his progress seems fast, it's due to unused residual energy from his previous breakthrough to 1 star. Surrounded by golden flames, Fangi decides that from now on, he must level up gradually, 1 step at a time. As he glances at a package labeled Authentic Goods, he notes that the anomalies caused by his cultivation are too flashy and thinks he needs to find a quieter place. At the association office, an older man hears something and reacts with curiosity. Holding a phone, the man detects a solar energy fluctuation and immediately suspects Fangi as the source again. In a quiet mountain forest by a stream, Fangi sits cross-legged and activates a screen interface in front of him. When prompted to use code points to implant a yang attribute into an item, he confirms with a yes as golden energy wraps around him. He recalls a past attempt where he used a figurine as a weapon. The coding worked, but it couldn't handle the yang attribute's power. Now wielding a new blade, Fangi senses that not all props can be turned into weapons. But this one is different. He feels the blade and his body share the same origin and resonate together strongly. The screen confirms that the coding was successful. Surrounded by golden energy, Fangi praises the weapon and prepares to test its power with a strong swing. Shocked by the overwhelming force, he exclaims in surprise as a massive burst of light explodes from the weapon. Holding the glowing blade with a confident stance, Fangi unleashes a fiery arc of energy in a wide slash. Fangi unleashes a massive slash that nearly causes a wildfire, relieved that the situation didn't get worse. Seeing the smoke and destruction, he realizes it was too loud and he's probably already been noticed. He prepares to leave quickly. Meanwhile, the girl rushes toward the scene, frustrated and yelling repeatedly in anger. She complains that she only went to redeem a coupon and buy milk tea, but missed something important, blaming her bad luck on retrograde Mercury. The girl looks surprised and shouts in shock upon realizing something about a hot spring. As she rushes through swirling smoke, she questions what the Buddha statue just did and wonders how to handle the aftermath and where to report it. With teary eyes, she worries about getting scolded by the cleanup department again and complains that ever since they appeared, nothing good has happened. Suddenly, she's caught off guard as something hits her from behind. The girl is shocked and yells in disbelief, realizing that last night the aura was still 1-star ghost axe, but now it has advanced to 2-star and even carries the presence of a spirit weapon. A visual explanation describes spirit weapons as powerful tools infused with attributes, far beyond ordinary weapons. She notes that spirit weapons are extremely rare, with the association only possessing 2. She's confused how someone else could have one, especially since current tech is still incomplete and restricted from public use. After a pause, she nervously laughs it off, saying it must be a mistake on her part. Sitting by the stream, she prepares to cool it down and clean up the aftermath. Walking through the forest, Fangi reflects that his weapon has the yang attribute now, but the system never said it was limited to just 1. Remembering the system's words, he notes that many techniques can be coded, and anything in the world can become coding material. He wonders if he can stack multiple attributes onto the same weapon. While checking his phone, Fangi receives a message from someone asking if he's a pioneer. The sender reveals they checked his browser history and saw he entered the realm after using a driver post. Fangi realizes he forgot to set his privacy settings. The conversation continues with the user saying their group has 3 members trying to connect with other pioneers. Fangi responds that he's a newbie too. They ask about his cultivation progress, mention how tough the body tempering divine axe is, and share a rumor about a national team player reaching that realm. Fangi replies that it sounds impressive. Fangi is surprised to learn that even official military recruits are still only at the Ghost Axe realm. He receives a message from Idug-72 about a newly formed pollution zone and a suggestion to team up, offering safety and shared loot. Fangi is intrigued and questions the new zone. He asks for the location, and Idug-72 sends a compressed data file titled Dark River Molten Dragon. Fangi begins extracting the file. The file explains that the pollution zone originated from a dark river altered by tectonic shifts, now turned into molten layer due to world mutation. Fangi notes its yang type attribute matches his and considers it a promising opportunity. Fangi sends a message confirming his participation in the team-up. In the Anwao district, someone asks Old Lai when his friend will arrive. A group stands before a massive sealed entrance, with one member thanking Zioya for the detailed map and intel that helped him find the location easily. Another member expresses gratitude for the group's support and reminds everyone that once they're inside, they'll need to watch out for each other. Zhang Zioya, a staff member from the Ministry of Culture's Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, laments that there don't seem to be any standout pioneers to recommend this time. A narration explains that most pioneers don't realize the association is a government agency, and becoming a formal member is extremely difficult, often requiring heavy connections and multiple tests. Zhang Zioya sighs, dreading overtime if the group doesn't discover anything. Just then, someone excitedly recognizes Fangi approaching. Fangi steps forward confidently and introduces himself to the group, saying it's nice to meet them all. She observes Fangi and guesses he's at Ghost Axe Realm 2-star. She finds his strong aura unusual. It's warm and not oppressive. The group stands ready at the cave entrance. Someone announces that since everyone's gathered, it's time to move out. Another responds with an okay. Inside the cave, Fangi takes the lead and tells Zhang Zioya to handle the light. She agrees, and the group begins their cautious descent. As they explore, one member warns Fangi to be careful of loose rocks. Another comments the heat isn't as intense as expected. They guess it's because they haven't reached the core of the pollution zone yet, and Fangi reminds everyone to prioritize safety and speak up if tired. Fangi reflects that although he arrived last, the group has already welcomed him warmly. He senses their friendliness is genuine, whether out of kindness or survival instinct. The team reaches a cavern filled with glowing molten lava. One of them exclaims in awe, realizing it really is lava. Fangi suddenly steps forward toward the lava without hesitation, alarming the group. Zhang Zioya warns him not to act recklessly with danger ahead. Ignoring their shouts, Fangi plunges a weapon into the lava. The others panic, yelling at him for being reckless and shouting to pull him back immediately. Flames erupt violently from the lava pit as Fangi makes contact, shocking the rest of the team. The system detects a world anomaly called Inner Flame and begins analyzing it while activating ultimate computing power to code the phenomenon. The analysis reveals that the Inner Flame has an extremely high internal temperature and explosive traits, making it incredibly destructive. The system then describes the Crimson Flame Blade technique when the blade is drawn. Each strike is surrounded by blazing flames and lightning, unleashing its full might. Fangi prepares his hand to activate the technique, surrounded by swirling fire energy. He declares that it perfectly complements his Tang blade and chooses to spend a serial point to embed the Inner Flame attribute into the weapon. The team watches in awe from a distance as Fangi rises safely from the lava. They notice his weapon is absorbing the layer's energy and confirm he's unharmed. As flames swirl around his newly enhanced blade, Fangi stands confidently. One of the team members praises his discovery, deciding to absorb energy during training too. Fangi notes that the spiritual energy has stabilized, and it's time to cultivate. Another teammate raises his arms, excitedly saying he can now absorb energy smoothly. A second person shares the same experience, saying with a bit more training, they'll officially enter the cultivation path. Zhang Zioya smiles and assures them not to worry about safety. She's only there to gather intel and will keep watch while they focus on their training. Everyone expresses gratitude to her. Suddenly, Zhang Zioya turns toward the cave entrance and notices new figures approaching. She warns the group that more pioneers are coming. A group of aggressive newcomers arrives. The red-haired leader mocks the others, calling them small fries, and declares the area his. Zhang Zioya looks back at her cultivating teammates and realizes all three enemies are at 1-star Ghost Axe Realm, concluding they can't risk provoking them. She politely responds that they found the location first and her friends have already started absorbing energy. She offers to share the space if they're willing to cultivate peacefully. The man mocking her strength and yelling at her to get lost. He threatens violence if they don't leave immediately. Zhang Zioya silently reflects that in this era of spiritual energy revival, the rule is survival of the fittest and the weak are left behind. Despite that, she reminds herself that as a member of the Xia Countries Association, She can't let this continue and must intervene. Just then, Fangi steps forward with a confident "heh," surprising her. Standing tall, Fangi confronts the red-haired man, accusing him of only knowing how to bully a girl. The man reacts with shock, shouting, "What?" Fangi unsheathes his flaming blade and strikes, sending out a powerful shockwave that pushes back the enemies, stunning everyone around. The man shouts for his group to fall back as Fangi's flaming attack blasts them into the air, overwhelming their defense. One of Fangi's teammates is startled by the sudden energy shockwave and asks what just happened. Fangi reflects that the tragedies in this world began because cultivators started worshipping the idea of the strong preying on the weak. But he concludes that such people aren't swayed by words or moral teachings, only power can stop them. Fangi unleashes another fiery slash, telling the enemy to get lost as the attack erupts with explosive force. The leader is stunned by the second explosion, panicking and questioning what kind of monster he's facing. Overwhelmed, the enemy group turns and flees in terror as Fangi calmly holds his sword. Fangi's teammates rush over in excitement, praising his insane power and saying that his sword slash looked incredibly cool. Fangi smiles and says the enemies crossed the line, but they've absorbed enough spiritual energy, so it's time to leave. As the group agrees and prepares to exit the spirit zone, they reflect on how destructive Fangi's attack could have been if it had fully landed. Watching him walk away, Zhang Zioya observes that he's clearly a top-tier pioneer with elite talent and a powerful attribute. Clenching her fist, she firmly decides that this event must be reported to the organization. At the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association office, a woman reacts to a report and asks if another high-tier attribute pioneer has appeared. Zhang Zioya on the other end is shocked to hear the word "another." Caught off guard, the girl nervously denies anything suspicious while secretly confirming she recorded the event and should be contacted for any updates. She ends the call, saving the data, as instructed. Later, excited, she tells her teacher that they've found 2 high-tier pioneers back-to-back, but he dismisses it, saying it's not luck. Anyone with a high-tier attribute now holds value and will soon rise to power. The older man rubs his forehead, frustrated by recent developments, thinking it's all becoming too complicated and he wants to quit. Meanwhile, in town, Fangi walks in a hoodie and sword. Girls nearby admire his appearance, thinking he looks like a powerful character, making Fangi embarrassed. As he silently continues walking, others around admire him. A caption notes he's pretending to be a cosplayer to avoid attention. Suddenly, Fangi receives breaking news on his phone. The events from Cultivation novels are starting to come true. Golden light in the east, a purple aura, and even a dragon sighting. Fangi realizes the anomaly was caused by his inner flame's power, which he underestimated at 2,000 degrees Celsius. He rules out Old Lie or Zhang Zioya leaking his traits. He thinks absorbing yang-type energy might let him break through if he uses the golden sun breathing technique again. Deciding not to delay, he heads toward the back mountain to continue cultivating. 5 minutes later, at the back mountain, Bai King stretches and celebrates completing her task. She's startled by a sudden powerful energy surge glowing in the distance and quickly senses it's coming from the mountain. The overwhelming aura spirals upward, signaling someone is breaking through to the 3-star Ghost Axe realm. Shocked by the scale of the energy, Bai King realizes this breakthrough is beyond monstrous and questions who could be behind it. Bai King slams her foot down, deciding she must immediately investigate the source of the massive energy surge. As she rushes forward with determination, she wonders if the one behind it could be that guy, though it seems too unlikely. Fangi raises his hands as spiritual energy begins forming above him, spinning rapidly in a spiral while lightning crackles in the background. He sits cross-legged, surrounded by intense golden flames, eyes glowing. His body is enveloped in a complex aura, and he maintains a focused hand seal. The golden energy condenses further, mixing with blue currents as it takes the shape of a glowing axe. Bai King watches from above, realizing that Fangi is trying to control a divine axe. She notes the difficulty of manipulating spiritual power so precisely and wonders if he secretly trained for several years without anyone knowing. Bai King recalls how she previously failed while breaking through, vomiting blood and collapsing under pressure. She stares at Fangi from her bed and questions if he's truly a monster born from thunder. She observes how the divine axe is filled with spiritual energy, and how Fangi controls it precisely. She notes that every movement of the aura looks like it could strike with immense force and recognizes that someone like him isn't just a genius, he's a being summoned by the heavens. Meanwhile, how most cultivators would rush to finish after forming a core, but Fangi maintains sharp focus and sword-like intent. He compares Fangi's calm to that of a high-ranking cultivator. Bai King chases the divine axe's aura as it begins to move again. She yells that the divine axe has shifted toward the east. Fangi's eyes glow intensely with golden light. He rises into the air, fully wrapped in golden lightning as energy erupts around him. He successfully breaks through to the second star of the Ghost Axe realm. Bai King braces herself amid the crashing energy blasts, breathing heavily while standing within the storm of golden lightning. She is flung back by a massive energy surge as Fangi's divine axe unleashes a shockwave, engulfing the area in golden force. Catching her breath, Bai King wonders why she still can't get close even though only 30 seconds have passed. She realizes he may have already detected her presence and worries he might act against her next. Her eyes narrow with sudden realization. Looking up at a large, glowing tree bathed in sunlight, Bai King notes that the divine axe seems to have stopped and hasn't yet fully awakened. Fangi hides in the trees and watches Bai King, realizing she's the one who's been investigating him over the past few days. Bai King introduces herself as the captain of a field team from the Spirit Energy Association. She formally extends an invitation to Fangi on behalf of the organization. Fangi responds calmly, explaining that he's only been following her these past 2 days in hopes of joining the official association. He assures her that his actions weren't meant to leave a bad impression. He adds that while the association hasn't made a public announcement yet, all internal documentation is already formalized. Bai King wonders if he'll misunderstand her actions or think she's been bothering him. She focuses on staying calm. Fangi questions Bai King's reasoning. She tries to answer but hesitates, overwhelmed by his directness. She debates whether to be honest, unsure if revealing the truth would make things worse. He explains that he wanted to locate the Spirit Energy Association early to integrate with their system and correct misunderstandings about rogue cultivators, giving both sides more clarity. He acknowledges that despite their differences, they all must face the same threats ahead. Fangi admits that if he were her, he wouldn't trust someone like him easily either, and joining an organization without certainty feels like deception. Bai King remains silent, visibly affected by his honesty. Bai King pulls out her ID card and formally introduces herself as Su Mantang, an athlete from the Spirit Energy Association. She enthusiastically holds her badge up high, hoping Fangi recognizes her. She asks him to believe her, treating it like proof of her sincerity. Fangi examines her and mutters that her name does seem a bit familiar to him. Fangi realizes she had better conditions and training, which likely helped her become an elite runner. He acknowledges it explains her speed, but something still bothers him. Fangi looks serious, remembering that in his previous life, Su Mantang failed to fulfill her mission and humanity was ultimately wiped out. He recalls the destruction of the world and thinks that now that he's been reborn and granted a system, he must one day join their cause, but the time isn't right yet. Su Mantang smiles and says she really does recognize him, hoping it builds trust. Fangi quickly leaps away, telling her he'll consider the offer, leaving behind a trail of wind. Fangi reappears behind Su Mantang and tells her to temporarily keep his identity and actions a secret from others. Based on her conduct, he concludes that the Spirit Energy Association likely trusts her more than other scouts. He internally decides to make use of her abilities, believing she can serve his goals well. Su Mantang agrees to cooperate but says the association has already noticed the disturbance from his breakthrough and she must still report it eventually, perhaps in half a year. Fangi accepts the condition and calmly agrees. Su Mantang leaps through the forest, frustrated that Fangi slipped away again. She complains about always missing her chance and the tiring task of reporting back. She grumbles about cleaning up after others' messes, then tells herself to stop dwelling on it. Since she's already on assignment outside, she might as well finish it properly. Receiving a message through her earpiece, Su Mantang is shocked to hear that an abnormal has reappeared. She quickly asks if it's active again. She recalls the brutal monster pack responsible for past horrors. She vows never to forget them. Dark red creatures with twisted forms crawl through ruined cities, hunting, biting, and killing without reason. They target humans and spread chaos wherever they appear. The creatures are classified as abnormal beings by the Spirit Energy Association. Their actions vary in behavior, with some attacking randomly and others following complex strategies. If they're not eliminated early, they grow stronger by absorbing aura, becoming more destructive and difficult to handle. Lightning strikes violently in the middle of a heavy rainstorm, illuminating tall city buildings. Fangi steps into a puddle as rain pours heavily. Emergency warnings flash on electronic screens, announcing that the area has entered a dangerous state and civilians should evacuate immediately. Passers-by comment on how frequent these anomalies have become. Fangi looks up. He notes the intense lightning pressure in the atmosphere and realizes that the center of the storm is still moving. Fangi climbs a flight of stairs in the rain. He stops before a distant mountain struck by purple lightning and mutters that the signal is coming from there. Without hesitation, he leaps forward into the storm. He lands with speed, sprinting up the slope toward the mountain. He receives a system alert confirming the area ahead is contaminated. Target location, Jade Peak. Another display identifies Jade Peak as a 545-meter mountain and a notable landmark in the city. Fangi approaches through the misty, skeletal forest littered with bones. The system reports that the contamination level is currently unknown. Fangi continues forward without hesitation. Suddenly, Fangi's eyes sharpen as he senses something unusual nearby. A massive bolt of bright blue lightning strikes down in front of him. The meeting begins with a report showing a mountain struck by lightning. They explain that the spiritual energy levels are rising, and the danger level of Yuhuang Peak is increasing rapidly. A man in a suit says, "This is a serious situation." The original cleanup team was reassigned, so the emergency meeting was called. He then asks King Yin to continue the briefing. Bai King, in front of the council, explains that currently the peak is inaccessible due to explosive lightning-type spiritual energy. They had only rated it as an A-level pollution zone so far. Bai King adds that in 1 hour, it will reach a level that demands a new emergency classification. However, based on past data, no one in their district, including herself, has the ability to approach it safely. The officials review death rate estimates and conclude that even Ghost Axe Tier 3 elites have a 100% fatality rate if deployed into the contaminated zone. Another officer proposes immediate lockdown around Yuhuang Peak's base with 24-hour patrols to stop anyone from entering. A second officer agrees, stating the mountain must be sealed completely from the root of the danger. They finalize the decision. No one is allowed near the spirit turbulence until energy levels drop. The zone will remain locked for safety. Suddenly, lightning crashes into the mountain. Amid the rain and flashing light, Fangi appears in a hooded cloak, muttering to himself that he will reclaim his memory. Fangi stands amid the storm, but realizes it's not enough. To absorb the powerful spiritual energy, he must move deeper into the mountain's core. He reflects on the deadly nature of this energy and its origins. Even ordinary monsters are now strengthened, and the danger level is rising with distortions in space and time. Although he now controls Golden Sun breathing technique and Flame Blade, Fangi knows he still lacks the strength to fully wield these powers. Future enemies will be far more terrifying, and even cultivators might struggle against them. He prepares his weapons carefully, combining fire and blade traits to increase his attack power. However, he notes that overuse may also cause severe damage to his body. Only by pushing his limits can he survive what lies ahead. Fangi senses the immense lightning energy surrounding him and sees it as the perfect chance to further strengthen his body. He reflects that constant growth requires opportunities hidden within nature's extremes, and he must seize those moments no matter how dangerous. He understands that if he misses this chance, he can only wait for death under the heavens. As a bolt of lightning strikes down, his eyes glow intensely. Gripping his blade tightly, he braces himself for what's to come. As lightning strikes, Fangi braces for impact. He marvels at the overwhelming force crashing into him. As he channels his strength, sparks and energy swirl around him, while he clutches his weapon tighter. Caught in the center of the storm, he screams while absorbing the energy, enduring the painful surge through sheer willpower. Breathing heavily but still standing, Fangi grips his blade and steadies himself. Fangi stands firm, feeling the deadly lightning attribute in his sword. He senses that this force is like a punishment from the heavens. The pressure increases, forcing him to clench his fists and grit his teeth.